Shangi Compagno and the four limitless contemplations. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jendamje dewatang dewe jutang den bajuchik dungal tang dungal chichu tang trawajuchik dungal mepe dewa tampatang mindrawajuchik nering chaktang ni tang trawe tangum chempola ni pajuchik. So tonight I want to do part 2 of when neuroses, traumas, scars, and stresses seem to overwhelm our spiritual progress. But I want you, please, to feel free to butt in. Really, I like it when you butt in. I'll tell you why. Because for me, this is something I really understand well. All the psychological stuff that people go through, I've done it for enough years in my life. And the thing is, it's not just to be entertaining. It's really so that you can change your lives, change your input, change all that karmic stuff, and really, really, really go forward in a completely different way, in a free way, which is so important. And I want to just start off with one sentence by the Dalai Lama, and then I'm going to give a pause so you can really contemplate the sentence. He says, what is reborn are our habits. That's the sentence. Halakat. What is reborn are our habits. Such a profound statement. When you think about it, ponder it for a minute. What is reborn is our habits. Very, very important, because our habits are so strong. You know, I do like a particular routine in the morning. Don't worry, Kath. I do a particular routine in the morning of prayers, you know, when I'm getting dressed and everything. And you know, what's so interesting, no comments in the background, okay? And what's interesting is that, that sometimes I get distracted and I'm thinking about something, or a message comes through on my phone. I'm not sitting in my shrine room yet, and I get distracted. And suddenly I come back to the prayer and I've already gone a whole lot of sentences forward, because it's such a habit to me that it just goes on spontaneously. You cannot believe. Now, our habits are like that. What we believe, yeah, I know they're hard to let go, Danny. Mental habits are very hard to let go. But that's what we're learning, to have awareness, so we can really, that dog is choking, so that we can really, really, really not let go, because they never were anything. Let be. Let them be. Don't fixate. So remember that statement whenever you're going in your life. What is reborn are our habits. So basically, as we're born, we're into the habit. And if you look at little kids, it's amazing, because they have certain idiosyncrasies, certain things they don't like, certain things they want from birth. They just want that. And then you know those are the habits being reborn. And if they're negative habits, we've got to start trying to change them, trying to make them aware. So I want to read you this. It's not really a story. It's a thing called the habit of attachment. There's a certain type of monkey trap that is used in Asia. First, a coconut is hollowed out and attached by a rope to the tree. Then a small hole is made in the bottom of the coconut, and some sweet food is placed inside the coconut. The hole in the bottom is just big enough for the monkey to slide its hand in, okay, and get the food, But not once it gets the sweet stuff, it can't pull its hand out. It's too thick once the food is in its hand, okay? And what happens is, so it's clenched. The clenched fist can't pass through the opening. And when the hunters come, it's very cruel to me, but when the hunters come, the monkey becomes frantic, but it can't get away. And all it has to do is open its fist, and then its hand will go, and then it can climb up the tree. But it can't let go of what it wants. Now, this is a very thing. All he has to do is open his hand and he can escape. Okay. The habit of attachment ignores the reality of this present moment. So we stubbornly hold on to what we've decided about ourselves. That's how we develop the habits. It's based on, obviously, it's based on, oh, that's very good. Sean, you sent this to me. First, it's an intention, then a behavior, then a habit, then a practice, then a second nature, then it's simply who you are. But it isn't who you are, okay? It's not who you are. It's who you think you are. This is so important for all of you in this, because thank you, Fee, with stunning persistence, we hold on to what we already know. And for the monkey, it's food is good. If I hold on to this, I'll get food. The more I hold on to the food, the better my chances are keeping it. But the less my chances of being captured are. I mean, the more my chances of being captured are. But it can't it's unable to accept the new information. Now, likewise, when people come to me often and say, but Melanie, this is who I am, I always correct them and I say, no, this is not who you are. This is your human habits. These are your stresses. These are your imprints. But you don't have to be like this, because you've got this true nature you can actually go. And it's really important, because we believe about ourselves. And as I said last week, our storylines, our coming to now, Danny, our neurotic obsessions, our woundedness, we believe that. It's really, really very important. And just to give them that little cartoon of the children about their parents, which I think is the cutest thing. And then the other one. So this little child says to his friend, it's hard bringing up parents, but we get them so late in their lives, it's almost impossible to change their habits. Okay, so, and really, I think it's almost impossible to change my children's habits of how they see me as well, because it's always there, that's how it is. And the other one is Charlie Brown and Lucy as the psychiatrist, and she says, no, not that one, not that one. The other one that I brought you, Life is like a game, Charlie Brown. That one we did last week. There was another one I sent you, Fee. Did you get it?
Okay. I think so. I don't know. I'll have to check. I'll have to check, Mel, because I thought this was the one.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it at all. Okay. Don't worry, take it off. If you get it later, you can put it on. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't make a difference to the talk. Okay, so there was an American comedian, and his name was W.C. Fields. And in a movie, he walks into a bank, and up to the teller at the bank's window, the teller asks, "Can you please identify yourself?" Fields says, "Of course. Do you have a mirror?" When presented with one, Field looks at himself and immediately states, "Yup, that's me." Okay, he identifies himself. "Yup, that's me." Now, that was very funny in the movie, really very funny. But how many of us think that's me? And one of the illusory body exercises that Guru Rinpoche puts in his Natural Liberation book all the time, which all of you should know, especially if you've been on the Buddhist path for a long time, is he asks you to take your body and to look in a big mirror and to see what happens. Do the mundane concerns come there? Do you say, ugh, you're so fat, you're so ugly, you're so wrinkled, you're so awful, you're so... Are we attached to that? Because we believe our negative perceptions are us, and they're not. And I know, Danny, like you put there, I know that it's the hardest thing to change. Because if it's been going on for 20 lifetimes, it's really difficult to change because the habit is there and the human mind just goes on and on and on with it. And there is only one way to actually do it, and that is with awareness. So when you do the meditations, or when you stop, when you're going through a hard time, wherever you are, when you stop and you actually say, I'm doing it again, I'm attached, I'm picking it up, I'm analyzing it again, I'm going through the same stuff again, I'm doing it all over again. With that awareness, we can say, stop. Now, does stop get rid of it? No, stop doesn't get rid of it, but stop stops the attachment and the neurotic fixation of going back and back and back to the same thing. Now, when I was in India for quite a while, for a long time, in retreat, I was in the same retreat place as the Western girls who were doing 3-year retreats. So they were all around me. Most of the time, they were very, very busy, so we couldn't talk. But when they did have a little time off here and there, which was very, very little, we always communicated quite a lot. And Taisitu Rinpoche asked me when I went there once, he said, so what do you think of all the girls around you? And I said, do you want the truth? And he said, of course I do. I said, you know what? A lot of them, their psychology is tripping up their spiritual retreat. Okay? And you should introduce, it's just my opinion, you can throw it away, but you should introduce something which can help them along with their psychology. Now, that is what Rob Priest has really done in 2 books. One is Preparing for Tantra, and 2, the second book that he does is The Wisdom of Imperfection. The Wisdom of Imperfection. You should try and get those. You know, a lot of these books you can download, you can download them or you can get them on Kindle or whatever if you can. But Rob Priest, who's a psychologist and a very deep Buddhist and a Buddhist teacher, he said and I'm going to give you all his stuff in very short, maybe if we get time today, I'll do it. But he really took psychology and spirituality, the Buddhist teachings, and he tried to put them together because he said his own woundedness tripped him up when he was doing the practices. It kept tripping him up. And he said he really has to find a way to change that. Now, I was thinking about 3 particular people on that retreat that I was with, just to give you examples. So the one was actually an Israeli girl who lived next door my retreat room. She was a lovely person, and she helped me with a lot of my practices, which was amazing because she'd been there a long time. But she was struggling with her background, her stuff, her Western stuff, and eventually she actually left. That was the one girl. The other girl, who was a lovely girl, and she's gone on with her Buddhist, they were all nuns, because when they go, wow, when they become nuns, it's a much better thing for their 3-year retreat because they shave their head, they have to wear their robes, so they don't have the worry about clothing, about all that sort of thing. And they don't have the worry about that. Stephanie, I'm very happy to see you. Not that I can, but I'm happy you're here. But, you know, but the thing is that they don't have to worry about clothes and hair and all of that. So you don't have that while you're on retreat. But she told me in her first year, she nearly had a breakdown. Okay, she nearly had a breakdown. And I'll tell you why. I can understand it having been there, because they are given dozens and dozens and dozens of practices. They have to do butter lamps. They busy at night. They virtually don't even get a chance to sleep. At night, you hear them all doing their church practice. It's all around the whole building of the monastery and everything. And they don't have time. And what happens is their psychology surfaces and it trips them. And she said she nearly left. She nearly had a breakdown, but she managed with the teacher's help to do it. But the Eastern teachers, the Tibetan teachers, do now, maybe they're getting an understanding, like Dzongsa Khyentse really has an understanding of our psychology. But long ago, they didn't have an understanding. They just gave you the practices and asked you to do it. And it wasn't easy. And then there was this beautiful little girl who had her retreat place diagonally opposite me. And she was, funnily enough, a Jewish girl who'd become a nun, a Buddhist nun, you know, and she was going in for life retreat. And she sat in her dark little room doing Chenrezi from morning till night. She was the sweetest thing. She used to drop me little notes, or when she had beautiful prayers, she used to put them at my door and say, Melanie, I'm offering these to you. And do you need anything? She was always the sweetest thing. But I kept thinking to myself, now she is on a retreat and she's isolated herself completely, except for her visits occasionally to the monastery. She's just carrying on like this. And then one day she came to me and she said, Melanie, she wasn't on their 3-year retreat. She was on a life retreat. And she said to me, I've had this dream. And she said, do you know about dreams? I said, a lot. I've done dreams for many, many, many years. Tell it to me and let me see if I can help you. So in her dream, I can't remember all the details, but in her dream, she had this bridge, an inaccessible bridge. And on top of the bridge was her white doggy. And he was barking because he wanted her to come and fetch him. But she was on the ground and she didn't know how she could reach him. There was no access to this high bridge. And she said, Melanie, I woke up sweating this morning. Do you know what it means? And I said, I actually do know what it means. I said, your spirituality is the white dog. It's really on top of a bridge, inaccessible. And I said to her, you need to bring it down. You need to bring it in. And she said to me, well, that's very interesting, but I'll have to ask Rinpoche about the dream. I said, okay, by all means, you don't have to listen to me. I don't mind, because that's how they trained, you know, only what Rinpoche says is okay. But actually, I knew that my dream was 100% accurate. And what happened to that girl, so interesting, I heard when I left, she was still there, but I heard that she actually, her whole visa, she was American, and her whole visa got taken away and she had to go home. So, and she was there for life retreat. And I thought, yes, it makes sense to me, actually. And it really was very interesting. And also, I remember Tupten, our beautiful monk, who told me what happened to him on retreat. He said in his first year of his 4-year retreat, he got such anger. He nearly burst with his anger. Do you remember him telling us this, Kati Martin? Maybe you remember. He got so angry, he thought he was going to have a volcanic eruption. Now, that's quite normal, because what you're doing is you're doing practices that reach your energy winds. And when you are not resolved, those energy winds surface and they go into the non-wisdom energy, and they make you absolutely mal, because you can't actually cope with it because you haven't dealt with who you are or what you are. And he said Rinpoche arrived after I don't know how many weeks of this terrible anger that he had. And he said, when Rinpoche came to see him, you only had a few minutes with him when he came. And he said, Rinpoche, I'm going to burst. I'm going to have a volcanic eruption. I'm so angry. And Rinpoche just shook his head like that. And he said, just let it be. He said, that's all? He said, that's all. Okay. And he said he never forgot that because basically he thought he had to go. When I was training in therapy and everything, if someone was angry, you gave them a cushion and they punched the cushion, to get out their anger instead of hurting somebody. I mean, that is a most ridiculous thing to do because what you're doing is you're feeding the momentum of anger by letting them punch the cushion. You're much better to bring them inward, which I learned from Buddhism, and let them actually be completely at peace and then allow all these other things to come up and to dissolve. And then do the Vipassana, which looks deeply in, not deeply analyzing, but deeply allowing so that you get what the bottom of it all is about. It's really, really important that you understand this. And just, I'll give you this and then I'll open it for questions. You really are welcome to ask whatever you want to, or to comment, or to give what your comment. I'd love it if you people that are here could switch on your cameras, because then I can see how you are understanding it. That's why Samson wouldn't do Zoom, because he says people are doing other things when they should be concentrating on Dharma. Well, me, I don't mind if you're doing other things. It doesn't bother me in the least bit. As long as you're focusing and as long as you introduce it to the Dharma, that's really very good. I think that's absolutely fine. But I like to see how you're responding to it. But James Lowe, and I taught you this bit before, I hope that this is helpful. He says, I think our culture is becoming more aware now, the fact that your identity, who you are, is pluralistic. You all know that. I mean, you all know you wake up in the morning and you have a terrible mood or a terrible day, or you have to be a wife and you have to be a mother and you have to be a worker and you have to be a boss and you've got all these millions of pluralistic roles, okay? And he says, all of us have sub-personalities or self-states or divergent tendencies which manifest in all the different situations. He says, in the area of psychiatry and psychotherapy, there's more and more a sense that many people manifest what's called a borderline state. Borderline means somebody who is finding it difficult to maintain a unitary presence in the world, okay? A unitary presentation, a kind of a unitary presentation. In other words, with all your different roles, you're really finding it hard to put it together in one unitary self. So what happens, he says, generally speaking, we could say of ourselves, oh, sometimes I'm very sad. Nice to see you, Paul. Sometimes I'm very angry. Sometimes I'm very sweet, whatever it is that we're having. But if our central sense of who we are, particularly when we go on a Buddhist path, and we've now got this, that this is the temporary drama, and this is who we really are, not the self, but who we really are spiritually is the important thing. When we do, if our central self, our core of who we are, is not very strong, then we become less able to manage all these tendencies. We can't manage them, all these different roles. So what happens is they tend to split off. So what happens is a part of us splits off, or the anger splits off, or the sadness splits off. And when it splits off, it's dangerous because you haven't got any control over that in any way. And then one trigger happens, and there it is. You all know what I'm talking about because you're suddenly in a situation and you think, God, I can't stand this person, or why are they doing this to me, or whatever, because the split off part comes right back to you, and it can be very dangerous. Now, he says, we jump from one position to another, often in response to an external trigger or stress or aggression. Okay. One of the demands from our culture is we should be consistent. People want us to be a particular way, and that's how we should be. Because to be consistent, if we are consistent, then it means that other people know what to expect from us. If I suddenly came in and I just said, good evening, everybody, we're just going to meditate, you'd all go, who's she? Where did she come from? What is she? Because you've all got your perception. So when I'm Melanie, and to everybody, I'm a different Melanie. But once I'm Melanie that you are happy with, then it's all okay. But if I change, it really throws you in any way. So what James Lowe very cleverly does is, he takes, the book is called Being Guru Rinpoche. Being Guru Rinpoche. Fascinating, okay, really fascinating, because I often have dreams being Guru Rinpoche. Now, Guru Rinpoche has all these manifestations. Sometimes he's this peaceful being teaching everybody. Sometimes he's a wrathful being with two heads, and he's smacking people into their places, and he's really giving you a hard time. And sometimes he's a monk, and sometimes he's a this, he's a that. Actually, he's got 8 main manifestations, but he's got a central core of his whole awakened nature. And so once you've got your central core of who you are, then you can act all the different roles very, very happily, because you keep that central sense of who you are. And that sense is not limiting. Our sense of Melanie, of Esty, of Daniela, of Jean is a very limited sense. We don't have a limited sense because our true nature is so much broader and so much wider and so much potential. It's amazing. So we keep that sense, and then we can do all the different dramas and the different roles without picking them up and criticizing ourselves about everything that we do. That's really, really important, because I want you to understand this. Let me just stop at this point. I want us also to do some meditation, but maybe you want to ask, maybe you want to comment. I'm so happy if you do. Apply it to yourselves, and no question is too simple or too stupid or too anything. Any of your questions are really, really important, because I want you to change your lives from this Buddhist path. Pammy.
And do you have an advice if we fall back into the old habit and we catch ourselves, but we already have done it? What is the advice to say quickly, I stop? Let's say work or with family or...
Absolutely. As long as you've got awareness, intrinsic, pristine awareness, as long as you have the view that this is a temporary, transient drama, In fact, as I was saying to them yesterday in the dream lecture, you can all go on and get the dream lectures because I think you'll really find it goes very well with what I'm talking about. But I said to them, the bardo between birth and death is a blink of an eye. Very soon, even if you're young, you're going to be looking back for a while at that whole bardo, the whole thing. It's temporary, it's transient. So we are here in order to get back to our enlightened beings. And I was saying to them yesterday morning, I'm studying this beautiful text of Padmasambhava's Real Wisdom Teachings. It's a very difficult little booklet. I'm not recommending it because it's really difficult to understand, and it's all about the energy winds. But basically, he's actually saying, when you understand the essence, when the essence expresses itself purely, it's these beautiful colored hues. When we have pristine awareness, that's how it expresses itself. As soon as we do not have that, the pristine awareness is there, but as soon as we are unaware, all those colors become coarse and everything becomes coarse and all the negative emotions come in, but they're not really true. It's just that we can't perceive them. So when you are in this body, Pam, and you suddenly say, I've done it again. Okay. The fact that you could say, I've blipped up again is too wonderful, because you will still mess up a few times. You will go back to the same habit a few times, but eventually you'll stop before. You might still think it, but you'll stop before. But eventually you won't even think it anymore. Now we're clearing. And what I want to teach you, so important this, and that's why I don't want to rush it. I don't care if we take 4 or 5 sessions to do it. But the Buddhist practices help you. But what Rob Priest really help you to do this, if you do the Buddhist practice while you are doing awareness, it's amazing. But I remember once having a girl in our groups, I don't know if any of you remember from many years ago, and she was an amazing girl. In fact, she was actually a psychologist herself. And she started to do Vajrasattva practice, okay? Now, I know she had a lot of hang-ups herself and a lot of stuff that she was dealing with in her life. And the Vajrasattva practice, which if you look at it very clearly, it's actually got 100 syllables. And when you really carry America, I call you carry America and you carry South Africa, okay? Then I know. Carry America, when you're ready to start doing little practices, I'm there to push you, okay? Because your insight last week showed me you really get a lot of things, and that's amazing. When you're ready to do a little bit of practice, we're going to start you, okay? But in the Vajrasattva practice, you do 100 syllables. And the 100 syllables represent 100 deities. And what's the 100 deities? The 100 enlightened qualities. And when you put that into your body, when you say the Vajrasattva, when you say the mantra, which has got 100 syllables, it starts working into the energy winds. Now, this girl went berserk from this Vajrasattva thing. She went berserk. And I actually said to her, stop. Do not do it. You are clearly not ready. Now, other people do it and they've done it for years and it doesn't have that much effect. But on this girl, whose psychology was totally explosive, it worked into the energy winds. Now, remember, all your neuroses, all your stresses, all your traumas are carried in the energy winds. So when you're working with some of the practices, they're cleaning the energy winds. And when I give you we can actually do it. When I give you the purification breathing, you actually clean and clear the energy winds. It's really important. So Pammy, does that explain to you? So don't ever give up doing it. Just do it. And eventually it becomes your habitual way to notice. That's what you're doing in meditation. You can be doing meditation walking along the train station like Kathy does, okay? We always see her walking along the train. Doesn't worry me when she's walking, because she's walking and listening. And when you are, whatever you are doing, you are aware, you are watching, you are assessing, you are absolutely awake. We've got to wake up the sleeping beauties of this life.
Mel, I want to ask about, okay, so we think that we are our psychology, basically. So all the things that happen to us, so we come into this life and all these things happen and we think that's who we are. And then we play that out in life, or, you know, or then we become angry or we become sad or we become depressed or we become sick and we think that's who we are. And then we live that out. So then we living out, we basically just living with the veils over our head. But when the veil is off, and then we realize, because I'm trying to do a lot of work at the moment, looking at purpose, because I really need to be clear on what my purpose is. So, because it's very important that I live that now, you know. So, if we lift up all those veils and, you know, like for me, what I'm finding is that when my veils got lifted, thank goodness for cancer, then I realized that I'm just a very positive, strong, easygoing person. And then I just bring that now as I am into, you know, into situations or into life. And I feel that that's who I am, but it feels a bit like quite simple. Shouldn't I be, is there something more? I mean, I know I should be doing a lot more practice, but at the moment I'm asking and I'm praying and I'm, you know, and I'm saying like, reveal this to me more and more, because I'm ready. I really want to live my purpose. But what's coming up at the moment is very simple, is that just be who you are. Just because for a long time, and Lami, she picked up on that I wasn't happy because I was like being like the stress.
Yeah, you were trying to
Pleasing everyone.
please.
I still please everybody, but now I do it with like cheeky, positive, light attitude, you know.
I'm absolutely happy with that. We're not talking about having to be complex. I mean, if you're simple, I mean, I see people day in and day out, and they're complex. Okay, I prefer it if people are simple. If you are happy doing that, your most important thing is that you are serving and helping wherever it is possible. Okay,
Yes,
that's what we're doing. I'm coming
really.
to that's what we're doing. We're serving and we're helping in every single situation that we possibly can. And it doesn't have to be profound help. It can be to a beggar on the side of the street where you lean over and you say, oh, I like this of yours, or whatever the case is. Doesn't have to be a complicated thing. So I love it that you're simple. But what you had to get over was that you were a little bit lazy to actually do the things you needed to do. And maybe the cancer gave you that wonderful opportunity to see that this is life and I want to complete everything in my life. It's really important. So I think that that's absolutely beautiful. The simpler, the better. But what Rob Priest and what James Lowe was saying, and it's so fabulous that we've got these two Buddhist, really strong Buddhist teachers who are also psychologists, you know. So it's like really, really interesting because they want to put it all together, and they both realize that Westerners struggle with all their stuff, you know, And I think what you're saying, being simple, is absolutely wonderful, because I know that James Lowe's guru, he used to say to his wife, and James Lowe writes a lot about this, he used to say to his wife, you go on and on and on and on and on and on. He says, just say it and then cut. And like, you know, when he said that, I thought to myself, it's so interesting, because all of us go on and on and on. Even when we've got a problem, the problem comes up, and then the next thing is we let it go, we're sitting in meditation, and then we pick it up again, analyze it, dissect it, do all these kind of things. He said, just do it once and drop it. Very hard for us. Danny, what did you want to say?
So I was just gonna say, like, if everything in life is fluid and there's so many different parts and we're always changing, like, why is it that awareness, wouldn't that in itself also be something not tangible, not constant either? Like, why does the rest of us grow and change? Like, surely that should change too. And also, if our problem is that we identify with our feelings and our negative things, wouldn't that work also in the other way, that if we identify, sorry, my voice, if we identify ourselves as someone positive, isn't that just another identification where we're not really anything? We're just.
I think what you're saying is very important, because I think that a lot of us play roles and don't really feel them, you know, like there are lots of people that pretend to be so positive, but when you look at them deeply, they've really got little snide remarks, or, you know, you see that they're not really happy people, they're not exuding happiness. So I think we do play roles, but I think we play different roles. And I think what Kathy was saying is, I'm sick and tired of playing a role. I'm this kind of, I like to be a simple person. I like to love people. I like to help people. I like to serve them. And that's who I am, and that's enough. But when you ask about, doesn't awareness change? You see, pristine awareness is always there. It doesn't change, but it can get deeper as you go along the pathway. Your pristine awareness can grow deeper and deeper and deeper. But actually, the pristine awareness is part of the essence, and the essence never changes. But our ability to use the pristine awareness, so the pristine awareness itself doesn't change, but our ability to utilize it and be aware, that's our most important thing in life. As soon as you are aware, you go, I've done it again. Oh, here I am panicking because this person didn't like me, because I didn't do the job properly, because of this, because of that. Here I am doing it again. Like Jean, you said, certain people make you feel so uncomfortable. Now, that's a very important thing, because if you have an imprint, okay, if you have a karmic imprint, now remember, you've got your psyche, that's your highest level of consciousness, closest to the human, all in your psyche. You haven't got imprints in your psyche, but that's where all your psychology is. It's that level of consciousness. Then if you go below that to a deeper consciousness, you go to your alaya or substrate consciousness, and that's where the imprints are, your tendencies, your habits, all of that is in your alaya substrate consciousness. It's a deeper consciousness than the psyche. Usually when you're dealing in plain psychology, it hits the psyche, not the next level. When I'm working with people, I'm always going into the alaya consciousness. I can see this in you. I can see what you're doing. So as soon as you've got those deep imprints, just let me finish that and come back to the imprint. The deepest level is your primordial consciousness. So your psyche, your alaya or substrate consciousness, and your primordial consciousness. Your primordial consciousness contains both the psyche and your primordial consciousness contains your psyche and your Alaya consciousness. Okay, and it's never tainted. Think about that. Your primordial consciousness, where your pristine awareness is, Dunny, is never tainted by all the other rubbish that we've got inside it, by the obscurations. So what we are doing, Jean, is we are looking, if you've got, let's say you have a lot of people in your life that threaten you. I'm saying that not to you, to everybody. If you have a lot of people in your life that seem to threaten you, it means that there are deep imprints that you created before. Now, those deep imprints bring all these threatening people into your life. It's a bonus. It's a way of overcoming all those imprints that you have. It's your way of overcoming them. So when you've got those, so when you see that, instead of falling for it, every time somebody threatens you or puts you down in a certain way, you already jump up and say, I can see it. I don't have to be put down. I don't have to feel like this. This is coming from my Alaya consciousness, my habit of seeing people as threatening. Can you all understand that? So, Dan, you can definitely, is that pristine awareness the same as, just tell me?
So is that supposed to be like at the bottom of, like, if you went into each person and removed their karmic patterns and their psyches, is that ultimate awareness supposed to be the same for every single person, and what makes me different to someone else? Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. It's supposed to be the same. In other words, all of us have that nature. All of us have the pristine awareness, but how we use it is where we are coming, how we use it is where we can change all the things. Now, in the Buddhist teachings, many of the things get rid of the obscurations. Now, what they talk about in Buddhism is, first you have the obstacles, which are pretty obvious, but the obscurations are the things that block you, and the obscurations are deeper, and we're not always aware of them. We just come into an embodiment and we see, we land up in so many scenarios that really frighten us, and we have to change that now. We've got to see that we're in the right place at the right time. And everybody has the pristine awareness, and everybody has the awakened nature. Call it the Buddha nature, call it the awakened nature. We all have it. And it's such a fascinating thing because, Kathy, to come back to what you were saying is, many of these things are also helped by accumulating merit. Now, how do you accumulate merit? As soon as you serve, like Kerry, you're in a job of serving, automatically you accumulate merit. Now, merit helps you tremendously, because if you've got merit, not only do you maybe have a better life, but you also have a better opportunity of understanding the practices, who you are, who people are, if you've got a lot of merit. Such a fascinating thing, when you really look at it. And lots of times these masters say, you know what? If you don't have merit, you won't understand these practices. No, man, cancel. What are you doing here? My software update would like to update now. Doesn't suit me. Okay, so what I'm really telling you is that as you go along the journey, it's amazing, because you learn that all the traps that you are in your life are just temporary, transient dramas. They're traumas, they're neurotic, as I was giving you the definition last week of neurosis, which is just, there's no physiological thing about it. It's just our tendencies, our habits, what we keep on doing over and over again that spoils us from getting to that awakened nature. Any other questions?
So Mel, I just want to make a comment. There's a lovely movie on Netflix at the moment called Father Stew. Have you watched it?
No,
You
no.
must watch
What's
it.
it
I
about?
really want to recommend this movie to everyone. It is based on a real story. And Father Stuart Long was a real he was this very rough man, American man, bit of a cowboy that became a Catholic priest. And 7 years after he was ordained, he was diagnosed with a rare muscle disorder. But he really changed, and he really worked with his stuff, and he's really lovely, and he's my new favorite, and I think he's a saint now. But I really want to recommend. It's such a lovely movie. It's so funny, Melanie, but it's got a really lovely message. And this Father Stewart, in real life, he said that his illness taught him that these things happen to us to humble us and to remind us of what life is about. That we here to go through these things, but you need to learn how to suffer with it's your attitude of what's happening to you in life. It's going to happen regardless. But I really, if anybody wants to chill, Netflix movie, I love this movie so much. I thought it was really good.
We'll watch it, definitely.
Good.
But I want to say to all of you, Sean, do you want to say anything? No, okay. All right, but we need to work directly with our neuroses. Okay, neuroses are our confused understanding of who we are and what the world is. It's our confused understanding. We can't see our true natures, so we work with our confused ideas to try and make ourselves feel better, safer, and to try and control our worlds. Most of us are just trying to control our worlds. And it's a bit of a pathetic thing, because the more we try and control our worlds, the more that we aren't able to do it. And actually, the more vivid the neuroses, in other words, when you've got neurotic tendencies, I love it when Taisito goes, neurotic fixations. Okay, I love it when he says that. It's such a big word, English word for Tibetans. But anyway, the more vivid the neuroses, in other words, the worse that you are in the world, the greater opportunity to connect with the experience of wakefulness, because there's so much energy. So we have to learn to see these neurotic fixations in their fullest, rawest, fundamental state. Their fullest, rawest, fundamental state, which is so interesting because it really, really is. And we see it at that moment. We stop the thoughts that arise around it when we connect fully in this way. We're connecting with basic energy, which is the aspect of our neuroses beyond the conceptual reach or the analysis. Instead of analyzing, why do I always get uptight when I've got a big job the next day? Why do I get excitable when I've got a project I've got a hand in? Why do I find that when I go out, I suddenly feel so shy and at a loss for words, or suddenly I'm overburdening myself with words? Why do I? Those are your triggers, because those are where the energies are going wrong. And in this thing, we're connecting with this basic energy. We hold on to our painful memories, traumas, wounds, stories, disappointments, and then they become our storyline. That's the story of our life. Some people you meet, and in about half a minute, they've told you the sad story of their life. It's always their storyline. Can we afford to drop our storylines and let everything be? Can we? Can we afford to drop who we've been? Now, in the Dzogchen, there is a practice called trekcho, which translated means breakthrough. And Keith Dowman gives a lovely expression of this practice, because he says it's like if a woodman has a bundle of sticks that are bound together in a really full stick thing. He says, now our emotional and intellectual tensions and rigidities are bound together and kept imprisoned in a self-created cage and prevent realizing your intrinsic awareness, your intrinsic freedom, because they're all together in a big bunch of sticks like this. Now, in the practice breakthrough, he says breakthrough is about breaking through the physical habits, the energetic patterns, the mental karma that bring satisfaction, comfort, pleasure, joy, ecstasy, and all the signs of happiness, or, that's the one hand, or bring the self-destructive, masochistic, painful, sad, sorrowful, despondent, neurotic conditioning that provides our signs of sadness. Which do we do? Can we cut this bundle and just let it go free? He says, what breakthrough is about is breakthrough is into the ground of being. So into your essence, that's what breakthrough is. Relaxing all the tensions, we're going to do it now, of our body, speech, and mind that obscure our awakened nature, out of which everything emanates. We can't get to that awakened nature because the sticks of our emotional bundles are so thick like this, and breakthrough, we cut it. We let them all spread like that. And there is the ground of being. And even if you touch that ground of being for 1 minute, you'll say to me, oh my God, who was telling me? I can't remember. Oh my God, it's the most fantastic feeling. Because when you touch the ground of being, even for 1 minute, there is light, there is space, there is color, there is everything that is there. But we don't get to see it because the bundle of sticks is so thick. And he says breakthrough should provide release from the tyranny of the intellect. Our intellect gives us tyranny. It keeps on going. Why did you do this? What did you do this for? Look at the mess you made at work. Look at the hell realm you're going through. Look how you spoke to those people. You'll never be able to. Our intellect goes on and on and on. And the neuroses, he says, is contained in and created by the conceptual mind. If we leave behind the thoughts by which we know it, we are involuntary, thrust into the here and now. And so this contains the answer to all mental disturbance and derangement. After we've realized the nature of mind in whatever appears as thought, the truth of the famous adage of Vajrayana, that it's better to slip on sandals rather than cover the earth with leather, it renders all psychiatric medication and treatment redundant, he says. It renders them all redundant if you just break through into the ground of being. And he says, as long as we see ourselves, okay, as long as we see ourselves, and what am I quoting on? I'm quoting from Keith Dowman, who's written a lot of books on this. But as long as we see ourselves, as long as we are the little me, I'm Melanie, okay, as long as we see ourselves and identify with the little me, we are a tiny island, absolutely surrounded by a threatening shark-filled ocean. We're trapped. Now, I'm seeing people who are trapped all the time in their same old stuff, same old stuff, same old stuff. And 1 inch of bust into our true nature, we're out of it. It's not affected by that. It's really not. As long as we hanker for the security that alleviates our loneliness and our fearfulness, we can't see our true nature. So the minute you say, It's okay if I'm insecure. It's okay if I don't win the day. It's okay if not everybody likes me. The minute we just let it be, then we go into the ultimate truth, which is our true nature. Can you understand that? Really, you can ask me, because I want us to just do a little meditation now, and then I'm going to give you a lovely story. It's really, really important, this, because if a lot of you are really serious about your spiritual path, and I love it, and I'll help any of you to the best of my maybe inadequate ability, but I really will help any of you to go past all that stuff that we keep on hanging on to, the neuroses, the traumas, the scars, the stresses. If we've had trauma, I said last week, if we've really had trauma, like some people have gone through rape, holocausts. I mean, as I said last week, I can't even think what these hostages that were taken on October the 7th have actually gone through. I can't think how they could ever get a normal life afterwards. I just can't think so, because I think they've been tortured to a pulp. I think they've been, but so have lots of people over the ages. And how do we get past it? Even those people, one of my prayers is every day that if they should die, that they should go clearly into the light and not hang on to the trauma. Because if you hang on to the trauma, it catapults you back into another life, and you may not have to go through the trauma again, but that trauma is deeply in your Alaya consciousness. Now, once you understand that all your traumas are just temporary dramas, and that you can go beyond to a place that is not affected by those things, then you're okay, you're home and dry. Because remember, there's the psyche, which is all our psychology. Then there's the alaya or substrate consciousness, where all the imprints are over thousands of lifetimes. And when those imprints are deep, you keep coming back, like I told you last week, like they say, people who commit suicide, who have a momentum of suicide, they just keep doing it. They just keep wanting to do it all the time, because that imprint is there. Sorry. So, for example, let me just see what she's saying so I can read it. So, for example, instead of saying I'm depressed, useless, craving, or whatever, we could say, I notice I'm having the thought that I'm depressed. That's not, that I'm depressed or useless. That's an imprint. Then we can become a witness to our habit of believing that such is the state of being who we are. I love that, Kerry, but you can go even past that, because I think, I just want to see, okay. Kerry, I think you can even go past that, because once you are aware that you are saying the same old thing, same old thing, same old thing, okay? We don't want to have what Kathy was talking about, like a pretended, like you say, well, I'm not useless and I've got my awakened nature, but really you feel useless inside. Then even then, it's better to let the uselessness come up. Let all these things, that's what Akon Rinpoche said to Tupten. He said, just let your anger out. Don't go and punch something or someone, but let it arise. Look at it. When you're sitting like this, especially in a retreat, and you're looking at it, my first few days in retreats are always quite traumatic. Because when you suddenly sit still in a beautiful environment, the ugly, the shadow comes up a lot, a lot, a lot. And I could see it straight away in my dreams. But if I do nothing about it except continue with my practice, continue to allow it, whatever needs to express itself, it starts dissolving. And then my dream state changes, my life changes, and I find a most beautiful, beautiful peace, which is so important. Let's do a meditation, unless anybody wants to say. I'm very happy that you ask a million questions. It's fine, because I really want you to understand this totally and utterly. Okay, so let's then do a meditation. Now, I want you, just for the purposes of now, but you don't have to do this every day, just get your spinal column erect. Your chin a little bit tucked in your back must be straight in the beginning. Even if you do walking meditation, try and keep your back straight, because that's where the energy winds run. So the negative energies run on the left side in a woman, on the right side in a man. So just identify that's where your negative energy winds run. More positive on the other side, and absolutely non-dual in the center. Non-dual means not this, not this, not that, not black, not white, just so. And every morning, as I'm sitting and I'm breathing into the count of 3 or 4, through your nostrils, out to the count of 3 or 4, I'm thinking the words, just so. Just so. Remember, your most beautiful quality of your true nature is compassion. And we really want to give compassion to other people. I know you all do. But compassion to yourself is perhaps one of the most important things that you are absolutely and totally understanding and compassionate of yourself. You really can see that you're trying hard and you're awakening slowly, and you're not condemning yourself. I think most of us spend most of our lives condemning ourselves. But now you're breathing in and out and allowing the energy winds to run. The past is gone, with all its pain, its bereavement, its subjugation, divorces, trauma, drama, everything is gone. The past has left. And the future, we don't know what is going to happen in the future. We have no idea. So best that we allow it to unfold. And we bring ourselves back to now. Most important in this work, check your body. Check where you are carrying your tension. I can also help you if you tell me where you're carrying your tension. If you're carrying your tension in the pit of your stomach, feel it. That's where the inner child stuff is. The things from the past, the butterflies and the knots are all there. So if you've got tension in the pit of your stomach, just rub it gently with your hand, as though you were nurturing, as though you were just allowing and just compassionate. Just note where the tension is. If it's in your face, relax your face. If it's in your shoulders, totally relax your shoulders. If it's in your mouth, feel it and drop your mouth. Allow it to just be absolutely, maybe a little bit open. And your eyes, you can leave them open if you want. You can semi-close them. Don't shut them too tight, because then you shut out. You want to open out into the space. That's what shamatha is all about. Calm, abiding, allowing all the tension, feel in your feet, in your legs, in your hands. Let it all be, let it all go. Just breathing gently and coming to this beautiful moment, which is so special. It's a time of acceptance. It's a time of allowing all those ugly feelings to come out, not in the bunch of sticks. Let all the sticks open and fall. Now you're just observing, as though you were an old man sitting at the bus stop, watching the children play. You let all your feelings come up, your angers, your fears, your pains, your judgments, your intellect. You're trying so hard, striving. Just let it be. And see this beautiful, huge blue sky. The color of the beautiful Dharmata is a vivid blue, open, spacious. That's why it's so good to do this meditation where you can see the sky. Because when you see the vastness of the sky, the vastness of your true nature, it can contain everything. There's space for what we call good and bad, for angers, for controls, for persecutions, for loss, for gain. The whole of the space of your beautiful awakened nature can contain it all. So we always start with just letting it all be in space. Now, every time your little mind, your little hand goes out to pick up whatever it is you allowed to drop and go out, you realize that you've got pristine awareness. You bring that little hand that's meddling back. You bring that little human mind that's intellectualizing back. You bring that analyzer back. You're free in the space of your true nature. How wonderful. Imaho. It's open. It's spacious. Now, from here, you can do this at home as much as you wish. And then you can start looking deeply with your vipassana. So if there is something that keeps coming up in your life, that keeps disturbing you, then I want you to look deeply. Do not analyze it. Just look. Let it talk to you. Let it tell you. Let it show you its triggers. When I'm in a crowded room, when I'm not on top of things, when I'm scared of the future and money, when I'm scared of losing someone or something, you're going to look deeply, but you're not going to look deeply with analysis. You're going to look deeply to allow it to speak to you of its own accord. Maybe it's saying, I'm the little girl or the little boy that was always unsafe. And you're actually just using your compassion on this. You're giving it light. You're giving it space. You're giving it pacification. Pacification means like giving it a dummy. You're soothing. You're healing any of the traumas in your life that come up. You're not analyzing them. You're soothing them. You're stroking them. You're nurturing them. You can see where they are. You're healing. Remember, with trauma, we do not look at what did I do in previous lifetimes? How did I get to have this? How did I create this? No value. You're just pouring Vajrasattva, white, pure energy over you, healing the scars, healing the trauma, healing everything. I was going to read you a story, but it's quite long. I don't think I will. I think it's enough. I've got so much stuff here because what I did was I pulled all my talks on all of this stuff out, and there were dozens of them. And so I'm looking in this and I'm looking in that, but I think they're all very important. Are you all gaining something from this? Okay, good. Because I want you to really do your work here. Really come to terms that if you are having a problem or you're having a struggle or something specifically comes up, just text me. I do an audio answer back. It's very easy for me to do that. But it's very important for me to give you all this wherewithal to be able to change these habits, these stresses, these scars, these traumas, and to always remember that that nature of mind is not one bit affected by any of this. Nothing. So when you enter the portal of death, it's up to you. If you can recognize, which means recognize, if you can recognize your true nature, there's nothing more to go through. You've done it, been there, it's finished, you're just free. It's very important, very important. Yeah, Esty, please.
A lot of what you taught today reminded me of a book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie, because it's instead of letting the anger build up against something that you can do nothing about, just let go. And it resonated with me.
Good, so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I know all of you, I can see that's why I love your things to be on, because I can see, what you are, how you're feeling and everything. That helps me a lot. And I will help any of you with that stuff, because it's time now. We've got to get rid of it. We've got to take this chance. The fact that you came into these Buddhist teachings means that you have great merit, not the Buddhist teachings I'm giving. I'm talking about the Buddhist teachings at large, because a lot of people can't give up how they were brought up and what they were doing and all the fixations that they were brought up. And the fact that you can come and understand it, I can lead you into the practices that will really clear this. So by the time you all die, you're free. You really are free. It's really important. So let's dedicate, and then I'll answer anything anyone wants. But we dedicate for all sentient beings There are so many people, beings, not only people, animals and everything, in dire straits, in really struggling, in wars, in hatred and anger, in egos of leaders. There's just so much going on in the world. It's like so sad. And we dedicate everything to all of those beings. And through this merit, may we achieve all-seeing Buddhahood. And thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And remember here, it says, once all harmful enemies have been defeated. But those harmful enemies are nothing tangible. They're just the enemies in our head that we have created. And remember that at all times when you're going through difficult times. Okay, it's okay to pick up those difficult times and soothe them, but it's not okay to go back into your old script, your old storyline, and carry on like that, because it just deepens the imprint and makes it difficult. And may all sentient beings be able to do that. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene chega nachi balap dropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. Get that off.